house. Moved out here to Tucson. Been working really hard on the house, and I've also gotten sick several times since I've been here. So I think it's just because I spent 2 years indoors, and then suddenly, I'm in a place where people are outside and doing things, and you talk to more people, and you just get exposed to more shit. So there I am, right? But it's Veterans Day, and I have a lot of thoughts about that, and a lot of my opinions about that are probably not very well liked. But fuck it. I did my service, and I continue to do my service, so I'll say what I want to say, and you can feel what you want to feel. And, yeah. So, first, I guess what I will start by is talk about Veterans Day. So, Veterans Day falls on November 11th every year, the 11th day of the 11th month. It started off as Armistice Day. So Armistice Day was the day World War One, the truce was signed. So, and that's what an armistice is, right? Like a temporary cessation of fighting by mutual consent, a truce, right? So, what happened is that the war wasn't considered over because they didn't have a peace treaty, so they signed an armistice to stop the fighting while they figured it out. And for probably 12, 15 years, every time I held the floor on Veterans Day or the Friday before Veterans Day or whenever, I would read this excerpt from this book called Breakfast of Champions, and it's in the preface. It's written by Kurt Vonnegut, and he talks about Veterans Day. And I share it because I had actually heard the stories as well, the same story, before I ever knew that he wrote the story down. And so I use it to kind of talk about it. So I'll just start to read, right? So this is in the preface, and he's talking about what the book is, and it says, so this book is a sidewalk strewn with junk, trash which I throw over my shoulder as I travel in time back to November 11th, 1922. I will come to a time in my backwards trip when November 11th, accidentally my birthday, was a sacred day called Armistice Day. When I was a boy and Dwayne Hoover was a boy, and all the people of all the nations which had fought in the First World War were silent during the 11th minute of the 11th hour of Armistice Day, which was the 11th day of the 11th month. It was during that minute in 1918 that millions upon millions of human beings stopped butchering one another. I have talked to old men who were on battlefields during that minute. Apologize. They have told me in one way or another that the sudden silence was the very voice of God. So we still have among us some men who can remember when God spoke clearly to mankind. And Armistice Day has become Veterans Day, and Armistice Day was sacred, and Veterans Day is not. So I will throw Veterans Day over my shoulder. Armistice Day I will keep. I don't want to throw away any sacred things. What else is sacred? Oh, Romeo and Juliet, for instance, and all music is. And it's funny when you're a young person, you want to throw away everything. You think you know better than everybody, and you want to throw everything away and start over with your ideas about what sacred is. And you've never really thought about it, you know? And it's funny, as I always read that, and in the moment where he talks about it being the voice of God was something I heard from veterans I've known from Australia, and veterans I've known in America, and, you know, all those people are gone that were there, you know, And something about reading that always told me, and I don't know if this happens to other people, but I was completely able to, I've always been able to put myself on that battlefield, on a battlefield. And I can smell the trench foot and the decaying bodies and the wretched fear of the next round of mustard gas coming downwind. And the moment when you're being told to charge so that you could take the next 100 yards. And the way that you can't even look at the bodies of your friends next to you because you don't have time to focus on that. And I don't know how I get there. I don't know how it feels so real to me, but it does. And I think it's important to remember just how evil humanity can be, you know? And so living inside of that, going and reading that and feeling it and really trying to experience what it felt like to have it all stop. It must have been the voice of God. And if it wasn't, it might as well have been. And the statement couldn't have been clearer. Enough. Fucking stop it. There's a reason why for generations we've stopped the world on the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So you can pause and feel death. So you can stop and understand the evil that permeates through us all and that we're all capable of. Because if you don't remember that, you don't know when you're going back down those roads again. And the word armistice is also, now that I'm retired, it's taken on a different meaning to me. Because when you retire from the military, you think, you know, I don't know, you think your war's over. Maybe you think that, I don't know. Maybe you hope it for a minute or something. You know, and I just retired, and I should have felt that way. But it was almost like a truce. It was almost like a ceasefire, like a pause to take stock of what I do have and what I don't want to lose. And then I recognize now that it was just a pause. It's the fight's not over. You know, in 1864, one of my first family members came to this country, like my first American family members. And somehow, every single generation of my family has somehow served their community, served their country, made this entire nation a better place in some way, shape, or form, you know. There's been somebody who's done that. And, you know, it's my turn. And they left Europe because in the mid-1800s, the early underpinnings of communism and socialism were already starting. It was already fucking everything up. It was already, you know, making it impossible for, you know, a regular person to change their trajectory of their life. And that was true all over the world, because this is the thing, is in 1776, America threw off a monarchy and we got rid of it. And then, you know, there was a lot of democracy in its wake. But what you find in all of that is that eventually somebody comes along who wants to become the new king. eventually somebody will come along and want to take control over everything. And they will use the system that you built to protect you from them against you. And so the war's never over. You know, I left my country in 2003, 2004 to go to Japan. And 7 years later, I returned home and I hated it. I hated what we'd become. There was a time you'd get off a plane and light a cigarette. And after 9/11, it was actually kind of neat because everybody kept throwing away their lighters. So if you had a lighter at the airport, dude, you had friends. You know? People just wanted to talk. And you could talk to other people on the street, at the smoke pit at the front of the airport, and have a good conversation. And by the time I came back, everybody was buried in their fucking phones. I remember I was going through a security checkpoint, and when at the time, if you were military, you could skip the lines, especially if they'd already verified your ID, like, you know, and seen you. So you could go out to smoke and then just pop right back in, and it was really cool for military guys who smoked. And I remember, you know, 2007 or whatever, I came back on a TDY, and I went out to smoke, and I went to come back in, and this little short, pudgy fucking dude in San Francisco, I forget what the name of the airport out there, Sacramento maybe, I don't know. But I remember he was just like, ugh, military, and like called me a fucking baby killer and all this stuff. And I was like, what happened to this fucking country? What's wrong with these people? They're broken. They're absolutely broken. You know? Say whatever you want to say, but don't be a fucking douchebag. And I knew, like, it was never going to be that country again, you know? And there was writing on the wall. I remember I went back to Long Island and I met with a friend of mine who was NYPD. And after 9/11, like NYPD, New York Fire Department, dude, they golden. Anywhere they wanted to go, they could go. So we go to this club, this bar club thing in Farmingdale, New York, and the bouncer lets me in, no cover, and then wants to charge him a cover. And he goes, I'm NYPD, dude. And he goes, yeah, it's only the county police that we do that for. And the guy was like, what? Like, this is not post 9/11. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the negative, but it's hard because you think you're serving your country overseas, and the biggest threat to my country is within it. It's bad ideas. And so for 150 years, old men Nolan or Whoops or Belinsky's have been fighting the socialists because they're just people who use nice sounding things to get in charge of everybody. That's all a socialist is, you know. And sorry, let me open up my Restream chat so I can see if anybody's even watching or anything. Make sure my Twitch stream is going good. One second. Alright. That's good so far. Let me get the YouTube thingy up. It's hard to watch it all at once. I got it going on YouTube and got it going on YouTube and the open up. Cool. Nice. Close. So we where was I? So it's like we have to fight them, right? Like, and that's the fucking deal, right? So for most of humanity's history, everybody was a slave. And when I say everybody, I mean like 98, 99%. Most people were not nobility. Most people had no say in their lives or what their job would be or where they would go or what they would do. And there was I think that's how humanity's always moved. I think if you go back far enough, you're going to find people making these huge treks across time and space, and it wasn't for more fertile farmland. I think it was for freedom. I think there's always been this subset of humanity who just wants to be able to move inside their own life, make a decision. I want to be a blacksmith, or I don't. You know? And I think those people always left. I think they left Europe. I think they left Africa. I mean, they had to have. They leave and then they go from Africa to the Middle East to a desert. Like, they go from Mesopotamia to Afghanistan. Like, in order for humanity to like spread, it had to have been. There were people who were in charge who were making it so nobody else could get any power. And then those people who wanted to be able to control their own destiny left. You know, and then eventually when they made these inhospitable places hospitable, then here come the people who want power. And now that it's safe and they can come in and take over, they do that. And this happens constantly. That's what happened with Apple. That's what happened with Google. That's what happened with Microsoft. This is human nature. Is an innovator builds the system, builds an amazing fucking thing, a society or a civilization or whatever, and then here come the fucking socialists. And all a socialist and a communist, when I say that, is they're just people who make rules to suit their own desires nonstop until the innovators are pushed out, because the rules become so normalized that an innovative person can't survive because they don't value those rules, because they didn't need those rules to build the society in the first place. And this is, a communist is just another version of a oligarch or a monarchist or anything. It's just somebody who wants power and control. And so it doesn't really, I don't care what you call it. I just know that my family's been fighting it a long time. And so I did my 20 years, not fighting the communists and socialists, but in the Air Force. I never fit in. I never fit in the Air Force, not once. Why is my bitrate low? I never belonged in the military. I didn't value the rules at all. I didn't like them. A lot of times the rules were always written to make the people who were already in charge of the Air Force stay in charge of the Air Force, which led to a lot of stagnation, a lot of repetitive bad ideas. Well, that guy survived, so I'll go do the same thing he did, and all decisions are just regurgitated past supervisors' decisions. So I never fit in the military. Ever. And I was constantly at odds with my bosses, constantly at odds with my coworkers, and constantly at odds with my airmen. Because when I read, standards and conduct, and I read the enlisted force structure, I bought in. I bought in. I really, really believed integrity, service, excellence, doing the right thing. And as we sit here today, all across the United States and all across the world, the United States military is actively fucking essentially, they're knowingly dumping hexavalent chromium into the local water supply. It is one of the most well-documented fucking catastrophes in environmental history. And it is documented every fucking year, and nobody's fucking doing shit about it. And when I became wise to it, I called bullshit. Because everybody was just laying band-aids on top of a fucking steaming pile of hazmat. And I fucking lost my career over it. So from the day I joined to the day I retired, I never fit because I actually believed. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to retire and I'll just go get a job that pays 70 grand a year, da 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 da. Easy enough. And by the way, super fucking easy. I spent my entire career building a resume that nobody could fucking touch. I don't have a problem getting a job. The problem is that I don't want to go work for another corporation that can't see me, that can't hear me, and that's willing to do the wrong thing to get what it wants. And that's the danger, right? Is I already did that. So to me, doing that again would be failure. And I might have to. I don't make any money doing this. And I don't have any space to do it right now. But so I don't really fit with the veterans. I don't think the war. I think in America we have a weird definition of what a veteran is. Let's talk about that, I guess. A veteran is considered to be somebody who at one point served in the United States military, the armed forces, right? So what? Like, that's not a big deal. I'll tell you exactly why I fucking joined. I wanted to eat, man. That didn't make me a good person. That didn't make me... I don't fucking float above the rest of you. I made me a good person. But I will tell you that throughout my career, I was very often absolutely, utterly surrounded by evil people. People who would do anything to get what they wanted. And they were in the military. So I don't just go, oh, you're automatically a great person. Now, do I respect the decision to join? Yeah. I think joining the military is the best bad decision a lot of kids make in their entire lives. And maybe in one day you made one good choice. And one selfish choice that landed up being kind of like forced altruism. Like, I had to join the military to eat and to get kind of health care and potentially go to college one day. But joining the military forced me into being a good person, kind of, because now I had to serve my community and my country, and I had to try to be a decent person, right? So that's kind of a cool net effect for society, but it doesn't automatically make us great people. There's plenty of people who join the military and just look at it as like a system and try to see what they can get from it. A lot of the officers, especially, juking and moving their careers so that they could try to get on Fox News one day, or try to get on the board of Raytheon or some fucking company to, who was that? Like Mattis. Mattis is a fucking weapons manufacturer. Like, I get it. Dude's a fucking badass. But he definitely had a conflict of interest in being fucking SecDef. Sorry. Do I think that he automatically did something bad by, because of that conflict of interest? No. I think he's probably better than fucking most. But what I would say is, like, his position on NATO was kind of fucking compromised. Which is where he built his fucking career. Where his stars were born, so to speak. What was I saying? But the whole point being is that just because you're in the military doesn't mean you're a good person. Just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you're. We kick out kids and then they leave with their bomber jackets, and everywhere they go, they're asking for fucking military discounts and veterans discounts because they got kicked out of the military 3 months in, and now they're a veteran. So I think, and that's just one side of it. The other side of it is like, what do you do about John Adams? John Adams never joined the military. He was never a member of the services. But before this country even had its freedom, he crossed the fucking Atlantic Ocean amidst the most powerful fucking naval fleet in the history of the world, took cannon fire, and brought his like 10-year-old kid with him and had to do that. But he wasn't in the services, so he's not a veteran. Or how about Martin Luther King Jr.? The man fought and died for the soul of this nation. We don't call him a veteran, though, because he didn't serve in the forces? He didn't sign a contract? If you didn't have your marriage license, would she still be your wife? You don't have to sign a contract to serve this nation. And serve it well. But on Armistice Day, it's so important that we remember this day for exactly what it was. Is that there was a moment in time where the world was so evil, where humans were so evil, that, and they were chock full of technology and ideas and power, and what they made was fucking mustard gas. And they used the new alloys to make artillery that could bombard people for days and days and days. We have to remember the evil we're capable of. There was no good guy in World War I. It was a fight for survival, and the worst parts of humanity came out. And that's who we have to avoid being. And by the way, I think America is the only country that has any fucking moral high ground on that. And I'll explain why. When the Germans got the ability to improve the technology attached to their weaponry, they didn't use it to become more accurate with their artillery strikes. They used the technology to basically make artillery strikes like carpet bombing, to kill more people. They wanted to just scorch the fucking earth. And every country in the world has done that. We did it too. But let me tell you something else we did. We created the GPS system and smart bombs. And so instead of carpet bombing a whole nation, we can send a missile up to your fucking doorstep, have it explode outside the front wall, because we know you're in the front room, and relatively with like 70% accuracy know that it's not going to kill the women and children that are currently in the back room. And we do it on purpose. We intentionally try not to kill people. When you talk about shock and awe, day one of the war in Iraq or whatever, our might have been one of the most glorious things in the history of military psyops was our generals and our fucking SecDef talking about shock and awe for weeks and weeks and weeks in advance of that day. And then the day comes, and we start shock and awe, right? And all night long, you watch CNN, and you watch, or whatever, Fox News, whatever you're watching it on, and then all night long, and then all morning long, the bombs are coming, the missiles are coming, right? And nobody realized that the feed never went out. Nobody ever talks about that. You know, I remember 91. I remember the first Gulf War. When the power went out in fucking Baghdad, you lost the feed for a few minutes until the generators came online. That's how it works. Well, we planned our strikes so fucking meticulously, specifically for the purpose of leaving the lights and the water and the utilities functioning, so less people died. Millions and millions and millions of man hours were spent figuring out which angle to hit this wall and where to have it go off, and how to hit all the targets and take out their communications without taking out the power grid and the fucking water sources. You know, we wanted to leave the nation as much intact as possible while getting the enemy. It is one of the most amazingly altruistic things any country has ever done in the history of warfare. And we give ourselves no credit for it. I'm a baby killer. But we're the only country that did it, has ever done that, who's ever tried not to kill people at war. We're the only people. Detainees. You didn't take prisoners of war because you wanted prisoners. Because that's just money you're spending. You took prisoners of war to get fucking intel. We don't even call them prisoners. We make them detainees because the detainee implies that you're going to let them go. They're just being detained for a second, for a day, for a month, whatever. You know? I think, you know, as a nation, we really have to actually look hard at the world as it's occurring around us, so that we know when we're being duped by the media, when we're being lied to. One of the biggest lies in history is that fucking shock and awe was this horrific, we just bombed the shit out of a country because we felt like it. Like, there was no fucking WMDs. I'll give you my theory on the WMDs. So, 91, we go into Iraq. We get a count of all of their fucking chemical weapons. We know exactly what they have. It's huge fucking lists of stuff. And he had already used it on his own people, on the Kurds. So, we know that he's got them. They didn't not exist. They were there. People counted them. So, the question is, where did they go? Okay, we searched Iraq. Well, it took us 13 months to enter Iraq. And, fucking, I don't know, every other country around it was an enemy except Syria. Every other country. Every other border nation of Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, every single one of them was an enemy of Iraq at the time. Except Syria. 13 months in a state the size of Texas, I'm pretty sure Biden's supply chain could move the WMDs to fucking Syria in that time. And guess who was left alone by our government, no matter what the fuck they did, all the way up until Trump was getting elected? Syria. Oh, guess who used VX nerve gas they weren't supposed to have on their own fucking people? Syria. We knew exactly where the fuck they were. We just couldn't say it. Because it's worse. Nobody can admit that. Anyway. That's not what I really want to talk about on Veterans Day. The term veterans, like, it's something I feel anybody can be. You know, my brother Eddie is a bartender. That's what he does. That's what he knows how to do. That's what he likes to do. And he loves serving veterans. It makes his day. Because that's how he started. He started bartending at a VFW hall. You know? And he's given me some of the best advice I've ever gotten in my life. My sister Kelly is a school teacher. And a real one. Not one of these fucking teachers union asshats trying to stay home from fucking school. She wants to fucking save children. That's what she's there for. She's there to make their lives better, make them smarter, make them more socialized, make them be able to do well and succeed in life. That's what she wants because that's what she was given by this nation, by other veterans. And she always believed in me. I took my mother-in-law to New York for her 70th birthday a few months back. And, you know, I was driving through places I grew up. As we're driving around, I'm telling stories. Yeah, this is a gas station my brother Chris used to work at when we were kids. And there's the VFW hall that my grandfather built with his friends after the war. And I remember when the storefront here was going to have an arcade in it, and it became one of the biggest deals ever amongst all the parents. My mom leading the charge against video games while she would come home at night and play Tetris all night. Oh, and this is my elementary school. And you see that playground there? Like, yeah, my mom built that, you know, like she was like worked it out to get the work done to have it built so that it was more safe for the kids because they had the old metal slides and it was one of the, and you know, now that playgrounds are all like plastic and stuff, it was like one of the first editions of that, you know. My mom did that. Mentally ill as hell did that. I remember being there. Oh, and there's the Christmas tree that they planted in town so that they could have a tree lighting between Wheatley Heights and Wyandanch every year. And that my mom worked that out. Oh, and this is where we used to have the block parties in the neighborhood that my mom would work on. And she'd set them up and get all the volunteers and all these things. And she did so much for her community. I mean, she didn't do much for us. But ours is, to be a Nolan, is a life of service. Whether accidental or not. You know, and so here I am on the back end of 20 years of service, I guess. Doing my absolute best every fucking day. And, I don't feel like my work is done. And I feel like we've got a long way to go, and I don't think this war ever ends. I think there's always going to be people who want to be told what to do and want to be enslaved, because that's most of human history. The people who survived, the people who obeyed the dictator, got to procreate. And the people who didn't, they didn't. They didn't survive that long. There's still some of us left. But every year that goes by, even if the percentage stays the same, the quantity of people who want to be told how to live and want to give up freedom for comfort gets bigger than the number. Like, the ratio is the same, but the numbers are fucking more dramatic. And I think that's what a veteran is somebody who looks at the world and says, no, I can make this better. I can do something here. I can fucking put this Christmas tree up. I can make my own way in this world. Or and I don't think my mom always knew all the good she did. Just like I didn't. It's 2015, 2014? I can't remember. When I was in Korea last, I developed a drinking problem. So I would work, and then the second the flight line shut down, I would go out and get like a pitcher of fucking beer and just down it because the bar closed in like fucking an hour. Maybe I'd get two. And I remember one night I was just super fucked up. And this kid comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Sergeant Nolan." And I was like, "What's up, man?" Because I didn't know him. I couldn't remember him, He goes, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, sorry, man. I meet like a lot of people. I move every 2 years, and all that, man. Which I do. I did. And he goes, "Well, I was with you in Al Udeid, and I was like, "Okay." Qatar, right? And he goes, "Well, one day you were talking at this like airmen's group I was like forced to go to," and he goes, "Well, I wanted you to know you saved my life." And I was like, "I'm sorry, how so?" And he goes, "Well, you were giving the speech and you were talking about stuff and you're talking about how you'd never fit in the military." And he's like, "And I never felt like I fit, and I was, my girlfriend had left me. She was mad at me. I was stressed out all the time. It was really rough, da-da-da. And I was just going to kill myself that night. And then you started talking, and he's like, I married that girl. Love of my life, and we have a little girl. And it's all because of you." I'm just a kid from a shelter on Long Island. That's all I ever was. To me. And then I became a man who saved a life. That's all it took, is I accidentally was probably more honest than any boss would have wanted me to be. And I saved a life. That's I don't know, man. What do you do with it? All I could do for a while was cry about it. Because here I am thinking I'm like a giant piece of shit, But it was my honesty, my integrity, my openness that that allowed me to help, to be of real service. And I just, I love that because I think, years before that, I would have airmen constantly tell me, they'd be like, "But that's not me. That's not who I am." I'm like, "Just do this, do that, do that." And they say, "That's not me. That's not who I am." I say, "Okay, well, let's do this." And I would tell them, go out, do something you're not capable of, and guess what? Now you are capable of it. And that's how you redefine yourself. That's it. And I learned that because I just realized that I didn't like running. I hate running. I'm not good at it. And I was like, but I wonder if I could run 5 miles. So I just did. And I didn't stop until it was done. And then I said, and I was dead. And I was like, huh. Now I'm a person who can run 5 miles. I think people think they have to change the world. But all you have to do is change a world. And you can make something better, you know? You can be better. You can be a better version of you. And I don't know, man. I think that's what being a veteran's about. Anyway, guys, I think that's my Veterans Day stream. I kind of just wanted to talk about some stuff. You know, the nature, the allure of power in this world is something very few people are able to withstand. The allure of somebody who's in control. I think most people are more designed to be submissive than dominant. Which is why everybody's taking all this shit that's going on in the world right now. That they're actually naturally more submissive. That's the same thing that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Is they just wanted to know who the fuck was in charge. They didn't want us to leave. They probably did, but who gives a shit? For the entirety of their history, they've been ruled by somebody. Might as well be somebody who's not going to treat them like dog shit. Why leave? Doesn't even make sense. Oh, you literally know somebody else is just going to walk in and be an authoritarian piece of shit to them. And they're certainly not going to give them money or help with shit. But anyway, we had the same problem here. There's a vast quantity of people in our country who just want to know what the fuck they're supposed to do. And then they go and they support the nice person. The person who says the things that sound the nicest. And that's not American. We don't set out to say nice things. We set out to do right things. And so I guess on this Veterans Day, I still prefer to think of Armistice Day. And I also know that my armistice is over. And that I gotta get back to fighting for the soul of this country. So, I'm gonna call the stream there. Happy Armistice Day. Find yourself a little peace today. Find yourself a little corner. And breathe. God bless.